come and join us in this opening hymn. It's doing a little bit of Spanish today. Let's go back to the first slide, and we're going to sing that first verse again together now that we've heard it once. Here we go. And gracias por el amor del cielo, gracias por el inmenso mar, gracias por el cantar del bosque. Verse 2, here we go. Verse 2. Gracias por el amor del mundo, gracias por la felicidad, gracias por toda mi familia, aleluya. One more time, verse 2. Gracias por el amor del mundo, gracias por la felicidad, gracias por toda mi familia, aleluya, 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 and a longer aleluya, aleluya.
Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Rochester. I'm the Reverend Sherry Halliday Kwan. I use them and they and she and her pronouns. And together we gather now, whether you're here in person or online. If you're joining us locally, that is, we gather on the ancestral and contemporary lands of the Haudenosaunee people, here specifically the Seneca, the keepers of the Western Door. Here at First Unitarian, our mission is through spiritual connection in community, we listen deeply to others and ourselves. We open to wonder and transformation, and we serve together with love and humility. Speaking of spiritual connection, this is our second week of our church year where we celebrate with each other, not only here in worship, now and then again at 11:30, just in case you want a double dose of church today, but also in between our two services. We gather in small groups during connection, and so stick around after the service to meet each other, and it includes a very special stewardship event for those who give regularly online or who are thinking about giving to this church financially for the first time. I hope that you'll join us for that or one of our other connection events this Sunday. So, all right now. If you are new or newish here, I invite you to let us know in the chat or stop by the welcome desk. There is a whole cadre of people in teal today. I don't know why, but that apparently was our uniform, and they are here to welcome you today. But we're all here to welcome each other, to form connections. And what we do here on Sunday is not just my words and Pablo's music and the music of our choir or the words of Reverend AJ and EJ, our lay worship associate, but the work of many hands, all of those who come together to create a space and a time for one another. And so I invite you to join me in a deep breath together. And let us join in our unison words for lighting our chalice. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and mysteries of this great gift. And now let us join again in body and in song, and we'll rise and sing together, led by Pablo and our choir, May I Be Filled with Loving Kindness.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. filled. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be well. May we be whole one more time. May we be whole.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm not used to being here so early. I'm an 11:30 kind of girl. But I'm so happy to be with you here today. I'm EJ. I'm your lay worship associate for today. And I got to tell you, when I was thinking about our theme about generosity, I thought, who am I? You know, we're always thinking about that. Like, why are we here? And what occurred to me is that somehow, over these last couple years, very slowly, I became a soccer mom. Okay? I actually saw this when I was thinking about this. I had some laundry. I was like, oh, wait, I am a soccer mom. And how does this contribute to generosity? Well, I'll tell you. We went to New Zealand this year. I was very, very lucky to go to see the FIFA World Cup, the Women's World Cup, right? The most attended World Cup. I've really developed a love for soccer. I watch my daughter play in 3 teams. I'm always driving. We had 3 games this week. I'm driving all over the place. Basically, I'm a taxi, and I watch soccer. And then in the middle, I work, so we can pay for all of this driving and soccer, right? And we knew about this World Cup over a year ago, of course. We knew when it was going to be, and I blocked my schedule. I said, we're going to go. What I forgot is because for over 20 years, I'm the chief of where I work. I'm still middle management, but I'm basically the boss of my immediate area, okay? And I have never actually taken a vacation in 20 years. Yeah, I would go on vacation. We would go to the Adirondacks, but I always had a meeting. I always had to answer some emergency emails. I always had at least one thing, at least, sometimes every day, something in my quote-unquote vacation. And so talking to people about doing this, I'm trying to scramble to go. I forgot to think about, wait a second, I'm going to New Zealand. I didn't even realize it's 16-hour time difference. I cannot actually do those meetings. Like, if you text me, it may be 3 in the morning. Like, I don't know. I'm really not good at that. I had to keep looking, like, what time is it there? And I said, you know what? I need a vacation. I work with my students and my staff and everybody, and I say, you got to take a vacation. And I cover for them. I'm always covering for somebody else. Usually I'm covering for like 3 to 5 people every week. And I don't even know, because also if your pager doesn't work, I am the backup. So sometimes they call me just directly because whoever it is on the other line knows me, and I'm going to answer. I'm always going to answer. And this time, my faculty came to me and said, you need a break. We are going to cover for you. It was only like within the week before I'm about to leave. Because I have so many parts of my job, it takes a team to cover me. It's not just one person. And I didn't really think or even almost want to ask. But I work with very generous people. And they saw me. And they said, you need a break. You need to go and not answer anything. And they actually, I think they took bets that I would actually answer the emails. I did not. I will tell you. I did not. I didn't answer a thing. I didn't do anything for 2.5 weeks. When I came back, there were people who said, you can't go away that long again. I did, but I thought that's why I come to church, though. Because this is a community that tries to see each other and be generous when you see someone hurting, when you see someone, and they don't even know it, right? Every time I've come to church, in also almost 20 years that I've been here, I often leave with some tears. I always leave with some of my spirit filled because I heard something that I needed, because we are a generous, loving community, and that's why I come to church. And I hope for those of you who've never been here before, or you're new, or you don't know anybody, I invite you to get up and talk to each other, wave, elbow bump, fist, whatever you need to do, because you're going to see somebody who's smiling back at you and probably needed that smile from you today, because we are a generous, loving community, and I thank you for being there for me all of these years as well. So, all right. So get up and say hello to each other. Yes, that's what I meant.
I am Reverend AJ. I use he and him pronouns, and you are also generous with your welcoming and greeting of each other. And our reading this morning is The Sweetness of Charity by Maya Angelou. The New Testament informs the reader that it is more blessed to give than to receive. I have found that among its other benefits, giving liberates the soul of the giver. The size and substance of the gift should be important to the recipient, but not to the donor, save that the best thing one can give is that which is appreciated. The giver is as enriched as is the recipient, and more important, that intangible but very real psychic force of good in the universe is increased. When we cast our bread upon the waters, we can presume that someone downstream whose face we will never know will benefit from our action, as we who are downstream from another will profit from that grantor's gift. Since time is the one immaterial object which we cannot influence, neither speed up nor slow down, add to nor diminish, it is an imponderably valuable gift. Each of us has a few minutes a day or a few hours a week which we could donate to an old folks' home or a children's hospital ward. The elderly whose pillows we plump or whose water pitchers we refill may or may not thank us for our gift, but the gift is upholding the foundations of the universe. The children to whom we read simple stories may or may not show gratitude, but each boon we give strengthens the pillars of the world.
Each boon we give strengthens the pillars of the world. We come to church in part to remember all those times we helped uphold the foundation of the world. or someone else in our lives helped uphold us. Life is an interweaving of these many acts. And whether we bring today grief or growth or gratitude, it is good to pause, to remember, to hold one small piece of our week behind or ahead that deserves just a moment's recognition. And so we invite you to bring what's alive within you here to the altar of community, to come forward in the sanctuary or online to type into the chat, and to light a candle, to recognize all that's alive within us here, and to be held in a wider circle of love and of trust. Bringing grief, growth, or gratitude, bringing whatever it is that is on your heart and mind today, I invite you to come forward now and set that burden down, or set a spark to that which is growing inside. And if you'd like an usher to bring you a candle, please raise your hand. All that we hold in our hearts for ourselves and for each other, all that we hold for the world, is held in community and is held to by a love that will not let us go. Earlier in our gathering, we sung a prayer of sorts, the Buddhist metta asking to be filled with loving kindness. And this act of filling is balanced too by an emptying. This is true in religious traditions that we draw from here in our pluralistic tradition. As Unitarian Universalists, we not only find wisdom and goodness in what Buddhism has to offer, but we honor and acknowledge too that we find ourselves in the midst of the Jewish high holidays. As we turn towards Yom Kippur, we, with our Jewish siblings, join in a ritual of atonement, of finding peace and alignment with all that is good, by acknowledging, too, that our lives ask us to enter into, or tempt us, or trick us, or simply find us doing things that we don't want to do, or doing things we wish we hadn't. This is true of every single human being. And so we join in a prayer a litany of atonement written by Rob Eller Isaacs, with a sung refrain. I will speak the lines, and you will speak and sing. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that we have struck out in anger without just cause.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For the selfishness which sets us apart and alone.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For losing sight of our unity.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For all that we carry, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. Amen.
I'm honored this morning to read and to share this written testimonial about First Unitarian from member Nanette Hiller. She writes, "Since joining First Unitarian, there have been so many little miracles, some more uncanny, that I've been moved by along our way growing into and with this community. Sometimes it's a simple moment of awe at the beauty of the woodwork and the trees and the grounds. The place itself is so numinous and grand, and yet a comfy home, especially to the kids, so comfortably foraging through the fridge for icy pops after the service in summer. To see my child so happy and belonging, to meet and have the mentorship for Nadia of Laura Humphrey, who reminds me so much of my mom, who was also a nurse originally from the South, to hear some of the colloquialisms I grew up with falling out of her, also like my mom's, delightfully, enthusiastically conversational mouth. And then to hear that the coming of age would visit Walden Pond on their trip to Boston. These are some of the more uncanny things that are such miracles to me, such medicine, such a balm to the heavy grief that I first walked back in those doors with. A trip to Walden Pond with a liberal church group couldn't be more hand-picked by my mom than if that hand was still warm and alive today. I was the last one to hold that loving hand, Nanette writes. I told her it was okay to die, to go home, and that we would be okay. The last words she spoke to me were "go home." Her smile was ecstatic, though she could barely speak anymore. So these miracles, this place, these moments, and most importantly, the kindness of so many people assures me that I told my mother the truth. And in these moments of connection and wonder among the living community here, it's like I feel my mom whispering the same thing back to me, a piece in my bones saying, it really is okay. We're all okay. It is okay to carry grief alongside joy. Community helps make this possible. I can feel my mother's voice answering my soul through these miracles of place, community, and connection at this church in her sweet southern lilt that still lives in my memory. It's okay to live, precious darling. Welcome home.
A little shorter. As part of the spiritual practice of generosity, we split our plate each week to support the work of justice and caring in our community. This week, half of our collection will support Family Promise of Greater Rochester, formerly RAIN, to assist families at risk of or experiencing homelessness to achieve sustainable independence by providing person-centered, holistic services in collaboration with the greater community. You are encouraged to give online at our website under Donate. Links are provided in the chat, and in person, you may put money in one of the offering boxes. In the spirit of abundance and generosity, the offering will now be given and humbly received.
On Friday, we held a potluck and community brainstorm here at church to generate ideas for stories and songs, questions and activities that might help us explore our upcoming seasonal themes for the rest of the church year. I did it again. Did you notice? So in the current spiritual deepening packets that we have for this season, there's an exercise that invites the readers to be very mindful whenever the word we is used, like I just did, and examine who is meant by the word we and who is left out. So let me be clear. When I say that we had an event on Friday, I mean all of the 3 local Unitarian Universalist churches. First Unitarian Church of Rochester, of course, but also First Universalist Church of Rochester and the UU Church of Canandaigua. All 3 churches hosted this brainstorm because it's part of our seasonal themes are shared. It's part of this growing collaboration on these themes that has been a wonderful development and a cherished part of my ministry here, to work with the excellent colleagues at both churches as well as the dedicated members who help craft the packets, lead small group ministries, and serve as worship associates. But can anyone here tell me, beyond all being local to Rochester, how exactly are our 3 churches related? They're all UU churches, UUA congregations, right? So organizationally, our churches, each UU church is independent and autonomous. Each church is a separate legal entity, has a separate leadership and governance structure. They have totally separate budgets, but they are interdependent and covenanted together, all as members of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, our larger denominational body. Now, despite the sometimes humorous nickname of calling the national office headquarters for the UUA, the Unitarian Universalist Association, in Boston, sometimes people call that the mothership, but individual congregations aren't actually sent forth from the mothership. Individual congregations don't have their budgets propped up by the UUA's budget. In fact, it's the other way around. The only reason that the UUA exists is because our congregations come together, affirm their common membership, claim their belonging together in this great big tent known as Unitarian Universalism, and generously fund the organization to make it real. But there is no requirement to actually do that. Congregational membership in the broader association isn't contingent upon giving money, but every congregation is asked to give a certain percentage of their budget to fund the broader association. And our congregation here is very proud to be an honor congregation, having met that ask year after year. Now, it's not a one-way street, of course. One of the main purposes of that association is to support congregations. Our church receives a lot of support and services from the denomination, as does every UU congregation, from guidance and consultation on a variety of issues to trainings and leadership development for volunteers in worship, pastoral care, social justice. The list goes on. Now, congregations don't receive less attention from the association when they give less money. But there is a sense in which congregations can get more when they give more, only in the sense that everybody receives more when the Unitarian Universalist Association overall has more. More that every congregation can benefit from, more that the broader society benefits from the advocacy and justice work that the UUA engages in nationally. So it's not a transactional relationship. Some congregations receive all this support even if they aren't able to give anything financially. But there is, I would say, a direct correlation between the generosity of Unitarian Universalist congregations generally and the power and strength of Unitarian Universalism generally as a force for good in the world. Congregations give generously to fund the UUA because we know that we are better when we work together. And this basic truth about generosity, it's also true at the local church level as well. It's all that we have and all we're able to do is based on the generosity of our collective generosity. I'm preaching about this partly because at First Unitarian here, we are about to conduct the fall wave of our annual stewardship campaign. There's no bad time, of course, to reflect on generosity and supporting one's community, but this fall we'll be reaching out to about half of you to have this conversation. But aside from that, it's Generosity is really just one of the ever-present spiritual questions in our, and by we here I mean human beings, lives. How will I give of my time, talent, and treasure to others, to my community, to myself even? This is a question that confronts us every single day. No matter what the resources are at our disposal, we can allocate them and spend them and use them thoughtlessly, unintentionally, automatically often. Or we can be intentional, aligning how they're used with our deepest values, pursuing our boldest visions for a world transformed by our love. At our homecoming service 2 weeks ago, those present were invited to reflect on the gifts they bring to community, including mentorship, service, conscience, inspiration, and even presence. Each of these gifts can be given as one going through the motions, or it can be given in the spirit of intentionality and generosity. Even if the only resource that you really have is your presence, your body and where it is, your mind and where it goes, your soul and what it connects to, the question is unavoidable. How generous will you be with this precious gift? So what does Unitarian Universalism have to say on this perennial spiritual question? Well, as I am often wont to do and have done a couple times in services here, I will ask the congregation, which of the 8 Unitarian Universalist principles talks about generosity? All of them? That's a great answer, because it's a trick question, because the word generosity doesn't actually show up in the principles. But of course it is related and can be read into really all of them. But this is one of the things actually that's being updated and changed in the current process to update the principles and purposes of the Unitarian Universalist Association, that document where the principles can be found today that articulates why we come together in an association and what are the values that ground our, by meaning Unitarian Universalist congregations nationwide, our work together and our relationships together. So here's what the current new proposal says about generosity. We, the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. So let's break that down a little bit. Generosity is a response of gratitude, in recognition that nobody makes it alone, that all that any one life is, all that any church community can sustain is only possible because of the generosity of others who came before, of others who are currently upholding whatever part of the universe you aren't presently engaged in, but are always bound to. This is what Maya Angelou was talking about, right? Generosity is also a response grounded in hope. Hope not as optimism that everything will be great if I just give enough, but hope as faith in the unfolding future of unknown. The humility to know that our greatest fears are no more certain to come about than our greatest aspirations, knowing that whatever the future holds will more likely surprise us than be familiar or predictable. Generously sharing faith. This is one of my favorite things about being a Unitarian Universalist, because it's about our pluralism. It's about knowing what is of deepest value and spiritual significance to each of us, and rather than hoarding these as secrets, sharing them as beautiful truths in a pluralist and mutual community. Sharing the practices, stories, and theologies that help us make meaning of life, especially those that hold us in the tenderest of times. Sharing that can be such an amazing gift to others. Generously sharing presence, I've touched on already this morning, but I'll just add that even without words, simply being present to somebody else is an amazing gift. And even without physical presence, even if it's virtual or long distance, showing up for regular phone calls or co-working on Zoom or gaming together online, finding ways to be with people. And again, to do that intentionally rather than automatically, to make space for folks to share what is going on in their life and to offer them the gift of being witnessed to. It's powerful. Generously sharing resources, of course, refers to the time, talent, and treasure that it takes from everyone in a given community to create a flourishing shared life together. Under our current economic system, of course, each individual encounters different amounts of money to utilize. And as diverse human beings, we each have and develop a variety of talents and skills. And time, while it may be utterly out of our influence as an immaterial object to increase or decrease, none of us know how great or how little time we have in this life. So individually, our resources come in various sizes and shapes, but when people come together and pool resources, we may find that we can live from a more equitable abundance. Interdependence, and this is not just about the grand intellectual idea of the web of creation and being fascinated by that, and it's not just about the warm, fuzzy feeling of feeling connected to that interdependence. Though these are both important aspects, we should never neglect the very concrete aspects of interdependence and mutuality. That sometimes is another who feeds us, another whose presence helps us calm our nervous systems, another who literally lifts us up when we need help moving our bodies. Grounded in gratitude for what we have received and know that we will receive from community, giving generously allows us to connect quite literally to the practical facts of interdependence and mutuality. And generosity, like all of the values articulated in the new proposal, is meant to be a clarification and expression of the central Unitarian Universalist value of love. Generosity is a form of showing love, compassion, and care is an essential aspect of love. Now, just like our denominational structure, this articulation of generosity is not something being handed down to you as a Unitarian Universalist in the metaphorical pew from me, the minister, having received it from the mothership. No, it is quite the opposite. It's the result, this articulation is the result of a very thorough grassroots process, and ultimately is its own offering of generosity, not a requirement. The requirement in Unitarian Universalism is coming up with your own answer to the question. So now I pose the question to you. What does generosity mean to you? What does it look like or feel like when you are generous? And how can each of us move from these more general and theological perspectives about generosity into the real concrete world of specifics? How do we generously give of our money, of our time, of our talents, of our gifts? I have two practices to recommend to you that you might try sometime this week or the next few weeks or months. One practice is to create a values-based budget for a given resource, whether it's time or money or emotional energy or particular skill. I'd encourage you to use percentages and just think about or write down how much of that resource you would like to spend in various areas in your life or with various people or on various causes. Then, once you have the values-based budget, compare that to the budget of actuals. Either come up with a typical week or month or look at the most recent and see how they compare. Please know that there is no shame in finding that your actual budget doesn't match your values budget. If that happens, you're in very good company because it's probably all of you and all of us. The values-based budget is literally an ideal, an aspirational thing to strive for, and things always look different when the rubber meets the road. And still, I acknowledge that it may be uncomfortable to do this process and to face whatever discrepancy may be there, but the perspective gained can be transformational. Now, if you're more verbally oriented than mathematically inclined, if percentages start to make you sweat, you can write yourself a letter. This is the other practice. Write yourself a letter from the perspective of you 5 years in the future, or 10, or whatever you like, but a shorter amount may be better for this exercise. Tell yourself what your life is like and what your generosity looks like and how it aligns with your values and intentions. And how did you get from the 2023 version of you to 2028? Or maybe you have a better idea for how to do this reflection. Whatever the method you engage in, the invitation I want to leave you with today is this question: what does your generosity look like? And how is it in conversation with the rest of your spiritual values? For me, I know that this, at least, is true. It is generous to be grateful for all the beauty and goodness of life. It is generous to wish for all to be filled with loving kindness. It is generous to give each tiny gift upholding the foundations of the universe. It is generous to forgive ourselves and each other and begin again in love. It is generous to carry grief alongside joy. It is generous to come together and claim belonging in shared community. And it is generous to sing together. So please join me and the choir as we now sing our closing hymn, The Fire of Commitment. Building community through salsa dance during our connection. We've also got the Covenant of UU Pagans chapter is gathering upstairs. We've got Parents Matterings and Parenting for Trans Kids, Youth, and Young Adults. And we've got UU 201 happening so much in connection. Please be generous with your time and join us for one of those things. And join me in the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. May you go forth from here grounded in gratitude, growing in generosity, giving from the love within you to transform the world. May it be so. Go in peace.